What is going on, guys? Zers here. And the other day I got sent a video on my Patreon feed from a patron who asked me to watch a video without him giving me any context to it and to tell him my thoughts. So I asked him if he wanted me to make a video about it, and he said at first he just kind of wanted me to respond to him in the comment section, but he actually believed that I could actually maybe expand on some thoughts on the video. Now the video is actually from Jordan Peterson. He was doing a talk. I don't know where, but it's a 7-minute video where he's answering 2 questions this young lady has for him. So the individual believed that I would have some thoughts on there to expand upon, and I believe I do. I do think that this is an interesting video to talk about. But one thing that I also thought was interesting was the patron also had his own thoughts, and he wanted to kind of have me talk about them a little bit. So I'm going to read his comment first. Actually, the first thing I'm going to ask you to do, viewer, is to watch Jordan Peterson's video first in order to obtain some context, because I will be responding to different points in Jordan's video in a second after I'm done talking about the comment. But this will give you context even when I respond to those other points later. So just, go ahead and watch Jordan's video first and then come back here. So okay, did you do it? All right, well, let's get this party started. All right, so this is the comment the person left on Patreon. He says, while not directly connected, I feel that the same point he talks about as you get one thing you desire, as you get one thing you desire the opposite, goes much further in our psyche. As I sit and think about it, I realize that the people crying most for social justice are actually the ones who have fantastic lives. Feminists screaming that they don't have the same rights as a man while having those rights, and one could argue more, since their freedom isn't dependent on signing up for the draft. That's true, they also have the power of life and death and the ability to obtain abortions. College kid at Ivy League schools crying about how oppressed their lives are and how tough their struggles are. They have taken what are effectively non-issues and turned them into giant struggles that they must overcome. It seems that we as humans have an innate need for struggle, and when we live in a first world country where all our needs are met, a la Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I said that incorrectly, my bad. We need to go out looking for things to turn into struggle so that we can fight against it. I've not seen much commentary on this point, as we as a society joke about first world problems, yet there never seems to be a very good discussion on what that means about us as humans and how we can try to address that point in ourselves. Now, I actually do think the patron has a really good point there, because I personally myself have never really seen very many people actually discuss the fact that we as humans have an innate desire or a need to struggle. Now, despite the fact that I haven't seen that discussion happen very often, I have chatted about it before. And what's actually very interesting is just how biblical this point is. Now, I know some people, gonna raise their eyebrows, gonna perk their ears up. I'm gonna be a little confused because I think the Bible is just filled with a bunch of bullshit. And I understand that, I really do. I think those people are wrong, but I understand that. However, even if you're one of those people who think the Bible's filled with a bunch of bullshit, and even though I think that you're wrong, having the knowledge or understanding that human beings have an innate need or desire to struggle is actually one of the very first things that ever occurs in the Bible, in the form of the curse of man between Adam and Eve. I'll actually talk about the curse of Eve later in the video, but right now I'll talk about the curse of man. I actually have talked about this before a couple of times, but the curse that happened between Adam and Eve, or against Adam specifically, was that man is going to work in the field. And in the field and working, they're going to get a bunch of thorns and thistles. And at the end of it all, they're going to go return to dust where they came from. So basically, the curse of man is you're going to work constantly really hard your whole life, and then you're going to die. That's the curse of man. This is literally probably one of the best examples, or the best showing of that knowledge in the Bible. Now, this doesn't mean that there's a God. I don't want anyone coming up here and saying, "Oh, that doesn't prove that God exists." Thank you. Okay, go tip your fucking fedora and go eat a bag of Skittles. I got that. The point is, however, that this is some knowledge that has been imparted to us by a bunch of sand-dwelling people thousands of years ago, that they have some understanding that this is a problem of humanity, that we have to struggle, that we have to do something in order to affirm our worth, or in order to feel like we're special, in order to feel like, you know, we add value to something. So what's really interesting about this is, why do we feel that need, you know, independent of some kind of curse or struggle that God gave us? You know, like, let's say, you know, there's no God. Okay, you guys win, right? Despite the fact there's no God, why would we still have this innate need to struggle? Well, I would imagine it's because, well, for starters, I would imagine we kind of need it, because, like, in complacency, right? The way our bodies work, or the way anything really works, just in general, is if you don't work on it, eventually it kind of degrades. Your muscles are like that, you know, 100%. If you don't exercise often, if you're not moving, your muscles, you know, your body allocates those resources to something else, and it degrades over time. Your muscles take a lot in order to maintain. I think the mind is like that. Actually, no, I don't think. I know the mind is like that too. Any skill that you have, if you're really good at archery and you just stop for 3 or 4 years, it's going to take time in order to get those skills back, because those skills atrophy. I think the desire to struggle is your mind's way of trying to tell you to keep up with your skills, because you need them to survive. I mean, if you think about it, you know, for millions of years, or for thousands of years, or whatever, you know, humans had to fight and struggle in order to live. They had to have skills in order to live. Excuse me. Whatever those skills were, if those skills were, you know, I don't know, metallurgy, making stuff, making weapons, you had to practice that, otherwise it'll degrade. Archery, like I just said, you know, if you're a hunter, you know, spear chucker, you had to practice those skills. Shooting a gun. I think the desire to struggle is your mind's way, or your reptilian brain's way, or some basic way of your body trying to tell you. It's just another survival mechanism. Your body telling you you have to do something, otherwise you're going to end up dying. You're not going to have and that's actually true no matter what you do, really. I mean, any skill that you have will degrade over time unless you're working for it. And if you're using those skills in order to get money and live, it's something that you have to constantly and continuously do. So, I mean, now here's the thing. This is all just conjecture. You know, take this with a grain of salt. This could just be some old bullshit. Maybe that's not why we humans have this innate desire or need in order to struggle and try to overcome something. But I think that if you want to try to, you know, think of some evolutionary reason why without invoking the creator of the universe, I would imagine that that's probably why. But of course, you know, I'm a Christian, so I mean, the curse of man is something that I've understood and I know about, and it's just clear to see that these people are just struggling with a need or a desire in order to try to become better, because that's the curse that God gave to man. Yeah. So, of that being said, the life of a human is one of struggle. I think most people understand that, because most people have struggled and had to deal with things. You know, whatever that is, a bully, financial problems, you know, all that jazz. So, understanding that, why is it that an individual who's at the, you know, the hallmark of life, you know, you don't really have to worry about being bullied, because you're usually an adult. You know, you don't really get bullied as an adult, although you can be, but does it normally happen like in college? So you don't have to deal with that. You don't really have to deal with really terrible or bad social situations being at an Ivy League college with people who have the same money that you have, or the same interests that you have usually. I mean, of course, if you do, then that's another, you know, topic in general. But I'm just trying to make a general case for why would these Ivy League students, you know, these feminists, social justice warriors, why these people who are at the so-called hallmark of life, they're living comfortable lives, they have money, they can do what they want to do, they can study what they want to study, why in the world do they still feel a need to fight and struggle and try to overcome something? Well, I would have to imagine it's because they're still humans. They're still people, even if they don't have any direct struggle they need to overcome. First of all, most people actually don't really look at suffering as a great thing. In fact, some of the moral systems that a lot of people even come up with is what is good is something that reduces suffering, right? Like, so people don't really look for suffering unless you're a masochist, and that's an interesting topic unto itself. But most people aren't like that. So why would someone want to suffer? Why would someone want to struggle? Well, I think the thing is, what's interesting is that, and this is actually especially true of a lot of females, like with a lot of feminists, a lot of the feminine social justice warriors, you can actually even see this in their appearance too, is there's an innate desire within the female mindset that needs attention and has a strong innate desire to feel special. Now, I haven't really cracked the code as to why women need to feel special or why women need attention. But I think at this point, I feel very safe saying that this is something, like, women need this shit. That's not even a joke. Like, women will literally kill themselves for attention. Do not be confused, my friends. This is a need. As to why, I haven't cracked the case yet. I don't know why. It's something I'll have to think about more, but it's true of them. So I think, these people who are at the hallmark of their lives, first of all, if they don't have anything to rage against, it's just boring. So, I mean, maybe part of it is also just so they have something to do. But I think another part of it does stem from their desire, especially from the female point of view, to feel special, to feel like that you accomplish something, that you do something. And it might also just be another way to attention whore, which might sound like I'm reducing it to something very simplistic, but sometimes it is that simplistic. Now, of course, there's lots of other reasons why someone would be a feminist. Maybe they were treated badly by men over the course of time. Maybe their dad treated them badly, all that. But I'm not really talking about them today. I'm just more focusing on the Ivy League students that was brought up by the patron. So, I mean, yeah, it's more complex than what I have, but I'm not really talking about all that complexity right now today. So just have that understanding. So I guess to really summarize this portion of the video before I move on to the second half where I actually respond to what Peterson himself has said. This is the curse of man that I've chatted about before, but I didn't really chat about mostly in depth. On the curse of man that a bunch of people kind of thought about thousands of years ago when they wrote the Bible originally. No, this does not prove that there is a God, but I'm not talking about that. However, it is shown that in this Hebrew text, these people have had some understanding that men are going to work, or man is going to work and struggle to obtain something and not really get much of anything out of it, and then they die. That's the struggle of man. I think personally it probably is a evolutionary tactic as well as that, to where the mind feels a need to struggle and overcome something because having skills is what kept humans alive, and if you don't struggle, if you don't keep up those skills, you'll lose them and that could die. So it could be a survival mechanism. It could be. That's just conjecture. Remember that. And finally, I think a lot of these Ivy League students also are trying to feel their damnness to be special and get attention and feel like they've accomplished something. Because you also have to keep in mind that if these people are coming from a very comfortable life, they never really had to ever prove themselves or do anything. So they never really ever got attention from themselves. They only got attentions for kind of being. And this is actually a problem I would see in a lot of women that I can talk about some other time. But I mean, yeah, I think a part of it is they have a desire to feel special and they really need someone to validate them because they never learn how to validate themselves, you know. Now, as I move toward to the second part of the video, one thing that I thought was interesting, when the person originally sent me the video, it actually for some reason linked me at 5 minutes into the video. So I actually watched the first, the last 2 minutes because I thought that's what the person wanted me to respond to. So that's what I am going to respond to because I do think it's very interesting and there are some things I can chat about. Now, this isn't really so much a direct response to Jordan Peterson as in he's wrong, because I don't really think he is. But there are some thoughts he has that I kind of want to expand upon that I think would make for interesting discussions. So that's just what I'm really going to do here. So I'm not trying to argue with Peterson. No, it's not that kind of response. But yeah, he's going to take us away.
God, I'm going to say this too, even though I shouldn't. But I don't believe this, but I'm trying to figure it out. I thought it was absolutely comical when 50 Shades of Grey came out. I just thought that was just so insanely comical that at the same time, there's this massive political demand for radical equality and say with regards to sexual behavior, and the fastest selling novel the world had ever seen was S&M Domination, right?
Now this is where I am kind of tempted to say that Jordan Peterson is wrong. I'm going to put wrong in quotation marks. Because he's not really wrong. I mean, this is just a suggestion that he's making. But one thing that a lot of people are wrong about is the fantasy of 50 Shades of Grey. A lot of people don't understand this, mostly because they only have seen the S&M aspect of 50 Shades of Grey, but that's actually not the fantasy that women are attracted to when it comes to that book series. The fantasy of 50 Shades of Grey, and this is important, I don't mean to be nitpicky, I mean, this is actually pretty interesting. You want to understand the psyche that young women have. But the fantasy of 50 Shades of Grey is not being whipped and beaten and dominated by a man. Now, this is true that a lot of women, want men to have power over them, because they really do. They really like that shit. It's the curse of Eve, actually. But what it really is about 50 Shades of Grey is being special to someone really powerful without actually having to do anything. That's really what the fantasy of 50 Shades of Grey is. Now you have to remember, 50 Shades of Grey is a derivative of Twilight, and it's the same exact fantasy of Twilight. You know, Belle is a completely unremarkable individual, save for the fact that Edward can't read her mind, right? This super powerful vampire. I don't really know if you call him super powerful, but I mean, relative to humans, I mean, it's a vampire. So this powerful vampire falls in love with this girl who does not. Bella doesn't even have any hobbies outside of reading books, if I remember correctly. I mean, this completely unremarkable individual who just does nothing and is just kind of there, gets this extremely strong, powerful man that just kind of tells her what to do and just pulls her around everywhere. That is the fantasy of Twilight and ergo 50 Shades of Grey. It's derivative. It's the same exact fantasy. Anastasia Steele, this unremarkable young lady who does fuck all, gets this incredibly powerful man. Not just, you know, to give her and buy her a bunch of stuff, you know, that whole hypergamous need. It's not even just that aspect of it all, really. That's only part of it. The other part of 50 Shades of Grey that's interesting is actually throughout the course of the book series, at the end of it all, Anastasia actually gets Christian Grey to not be into BDSM and all that. It's actually Anastasia's unremarkable, just her being itself actually heals the pain Christian Grey had from being abused by his mother and all that. I mean, that's what happens at the end of the book series. So you wouldn't know if you just watched the movies, because only the second movie came out. But that's the fantasy of 50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey speaks to women's innate desire to feel special, which is something I kind of brought up earlier today. In the video. So it's not really about domination, it's more about me not doing anything but still being the center of the universe. And I still haven't cracked the code as to why young ladies are like that, but a lot of women are. So
It's like, oh well, we know where the unconscious is going with that one, don't we? And sometimes I think, like, because one of the things that I've really tried to puzzle out, and it's not like I believe this, right? I'm just telling you where the edges of my thinking have been going, is that you have this crazy alliance between the feminists and the radical Islamists that I just do not get. It's like the feminists, it's like why they aren't protesting nonstop about Saudi Arabia is just completely beyond me. Like,
now this one is actually really simple, and there's two layers to this. Layer number one, I'll actually start from layer number two and work back to layer number one. The reason why a lot of feminists aren't protesting in Saudi Arabia or any other country is because what you have to understand is feminism directly draws its power from the love men have for women. Like, feminism is only a thing because men love women. Men, men have like a not just so much a sexual need, but even an emotional need to appeal to women. It's actually really fascinating. If you actually ever stop and really think about it, even MGTOWs still have this desire. It's fucking hilarious. But men really like and love women. So that's where feminism derives its power from. Even if you look at a lot of male feminists are only that way, or only regurgitate the feminist ideology so they can get a pat on the head from females. It's the same desire, despite the fact they're on a different side, a different team. That's really all it is. So you can't use feminism in an environment where men have complete control over the thoughts, minds, and opinions of women. It's not going to work. Feminism's foothold is in the fact that men are going to capitulate to women or become what women want them to be. But if these men in Saudi Arabia don't have to do that, then you can't go in there. I mean, feminism, it's useless. It's absolutely fucking useless in an environment like that, because these men don't share the same love like Western American men have. Their desire to protect women and appeal to women. They don't have that. They just kind of take what they want.
I do not understand it in the least. And I wonder too, I just wonder bloody well, this is the Freud in me, is like, is there an attraction, is there an attraction that's emerging among the female radicals for that totalitarian male dominance that they've chased out of the West? And I mean, that's a hell of a thing to think, but after all, I am psychoanalytically minded, and I do think things like that.
Yes and no. I would say that's probably part of it. I wouldn't put it past a lot of women, because Like women really do. Like this is the very interesting thing about the male-female relationship is the two-stepping between men and women. How much men want to appeal to women and be what women say they want them to be, which is nice, kind-hearted, and frilly, and do what they want. But what women want from men is to have men have power over them and dominate them and kind of control their lives. It's interesting how diametrically opposed those two forces are, despite the fact that men and women really do want each other. It's very interesting. It can be its own subject one day. So I would say I wouldn't put it past some of these feminists that's what they are attracted to when it comes to Islam. But what I really think it is I think it's more demographics, because I think it's two-pronged, actually. I think it's two-pronged. I think it's both antagonistic towards Christianity and also, and I'm going to explain it, just give me a second. But also demographically, Muslims in most Western areas are the minority. So again, working backwards, if you look at where Muslims are usually, of course not in Western Europe at this point in time because there's a lot of them coming, but originally before the refugee crisis, Muslims were very few and far between, and they were a minority. So these people were just extending their beliefs about protecting minorities to Muslims. They even had the dumbass idea that not liking Islam was racist. Again, excuse me, all it really was at that point, and I think even to a larger point now, is just extending their already foolish idea of, equality to minorities to Muslims, and they view them as a minority, so they just kind of, I think it's just as simple as that. I don't really think, I wouldn't put it past them that they want this sexual domination of these men. I really wouldn't, but I don't really think that's what it is. I think it's demographically, if you look at things, Muslims are a minority. Now, that said, when I was talking about their antagonistic nature of Christianity, it's because if you look at Islam as a religion versus Christianity as a religion, you'll notice that a lot of people come harder down on Christianity a lot. Not only because it's closer to them, it has a wider effect on Western society, being the fucking bedrock of our morality, but not only is it closer, and not only is it easier to rebel against that, the religion that your parents had, but also if you look at the way Christianity is, it's a religion that requires you or asks of you to be better. That asks of you yourself to restrict yourself. And a lot of these people who want to be rebellious, they don't like the idea of restricting yourself to get something else, even though I can, again, there's so many videos I can make about these topics. They're so complex, and this video is long as hell as it is. But their rebellion against Christianity is that if they bring in Islam, it's going to combat the religion that they themselves already don't like, that they're already trying to weaken and destroy. I think that's also part of it, because it really doesn't make any sense for someone to have such an intense disdain for Christianity as a lot of these feminists do, and then say and defend Islam. It makes no sense unless you come from the understanding that these people inherently, it's not really about replacing Christianity. It's about rebellion. It's about getting rid of it, and Islam's just gonna help do that. They're fighting against Christianity because they're the minority. I mean, the white Christian patriarchy is still their antagonist. And so they think Islam's going to help them defeat that by trying to balancing out the equation, though. I think that's part of what it is, but I could totally be wrong there as well, but I really don't think I am. I mean, if you listen to the way these people talk about Christianity, despite the fact that Islam is like so much worse in every regard.
Because, I just can see no rational reason for it. The only other rational reason is that, the West needs to fall, and so the enemy of my enemy is...
My friend,
exactly. Now, what is it? I got that wrong, but...
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yes, exactly.
And there you go. I don't disagree with him. I agree with him wholeheartedly. It's probably exactly what it is as well. Probably.
Why Islamists tend to vote liberal as well.
Yes, so that could be the case. But I'm not going to shake my suspicion about this unconscious balancing, because as the demand for egalitarianism and the eradication of masculinity accelerates, there's going to be a longing in the unconscious for the precise opposite of that, right? The more you scream for equality, the more your unconscious is going to admire dominance. And so, that's how you think if you're psychoanalytically minded. And, I'm a great admirer of Freud. He knew a hell of a lot more than people like to think. And so which is partly why everyone still hates him, even though it's been 100 years since he's, you know, really been around. So, all right, we should stop.
And I agree with that. So that is the end of Peterson's video, which you would already know since I asked you to watch it from the beginning. And that would subsequently make it the end of my video. I actually freaking adore this man. Everyone likes Jordan Peterson. That's actually not even saying anything. It's not saying something you don't already know. I really like listening to this guy. And I am really glad that the patron sent me this video to talk about, because I do think that there are a lot of interesting ideas presented here. And I think there's so much more I could talk about. But I mean, just for time constraints, this video is long as hell as it is. And I'm just going to have to split it up into different videos, or maybe just one day make a live stream or some kind of podcast so I can really go into detail about so many of these other things, because I mean, this stuff is complex. There's so many things to talk about. And so I hope I convince you, if you're a new subscriber, to just come by and just keep listening to me, because there's a lot of shit we can talk about on this channel. So with that being said, man, I certainly hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, then go ahead and click the like button. And shoot, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below. And as always, you guys have yourselves a great day. And I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.